I'm back with another video. This one is scripted, so hopefully it will have a little bit more structure, which is perfect because today we're talking about story structure. I wanted to give some tips on how to get started for people who are new to outlining. Disclaimer, I am not claiming to have invented any of these methods, nor am I an expert. In fact, I'm fairly new to the world of outlining. I have, however, compiled some techniques for me to use during the outlining months of Publish 2022, and I thought I would share those with you so you can pick which method works for you. Or, if you're like me, do them all. Number 1, mind mapping. This is something I sort of accidentally ended up doing in the early stages of my outlining and brainstorming process. The way I did it is start with a big old piece of paper, bigger the better, gives you more room to work with. Start writing down short descriptions of scenes as they come to you, with an arrow from one to the next chronologically. If a particular scene changes the course of the story, then reflect that by changing the direction of the next arrow, so that it forms like a corridor. As an example, using the story of Hamlet. Maybe you write down Hamlet's mom and stepfather meet with him, then an arrow. Then Hamlet hears about his father's ghost, then an arrow. Then Hamlet finds out from his father's ghost that his uncle murdered him. Now this is a pivotal scene, so we change directions here going to the next scene. And so on until you run out of ideas. I find this is a neat way to visualize the shape of the story that you're working on, and it's also good for the early stages because it doesn't demand that you know everything yet, just write down what you do know. It can also help you find the inciting incident, the midpoint, pinch points, etc., because oftentimes those will be the parts of the map that change direction. Next up, Dan Harmon's story circle. This one's a bit more structured than the last one and very character-centric, so if you want your characters to be the star of your story, I'd recommend trying this. Unlike other outlining methods, you probably want to make multiple of these story circles, one for each character that you want to have an arc. The circle has 8 steps. You, who is the character at the start of the story. Need, what does the character want or need? Go, the character enters a new and unfamiliar world. Search, they look for what they need. Find, they find it. Take, they take what they wanted, paying a heavy price for it. Return, they return to their old world. Changed, having changed. As I said, you'll want to complete this for every character that you want to develop or focus on. Personally, I've done it for 3 of my characters so far, the main character, the love interest, and one of the antagonists. The third method is called the Snowflake Method. I'm going to provide a link to the description of this because there are a lot of steps, but the essence is that you start with a 1-sentence description of your novel, and then develop that into 5 sentences. Setup, 3 points of conflict, and the resolution. Then develop each of those into a paragraph, and then a page. This can be a useful method for gradually developing detail in your story. There are steps in there that involve developing characters, but I would say that it's more so a plot-focused outlining method. So far, I've done through the 5-paragraph outline, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do the 5-page one, just because I'm not sure I want to go into that much detail, but we'll see. The 4th method is the 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outlining method, developed by Katie Tastic on YouTube, I believe, though it is based off of a pre-existing 3-act structure. I'll just link her video explaining it rather than going point by point, but basically it's exactly what it sounds like. A method for breaking up the 3-act structure into 27 plot chunks that you can flesh out as you go. I've already made use of this structure, providing a phrase to a sentence for each of the 27 chapters. My goal is to then flesh those out in the coming weeks. I would say this is a pretty plot-focused rather than character-focused outlining method, but I found it very useful for really clarifying those pivot points that I identified with the mind map, and also putting it all into a traditional structure. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you luck with your writing journey. Outlining can be a bit daunting, but I promise it's not as scary as it sounds, and it can be really helpful at moving your story forward. Please leave a like if you liked it, subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. I'll be back with another video in a week if all goes to plan.